Welcome to the Remnant Radio Show. This is the Alef Tav Remedy, and today I have a special guest, and her name is Nicole Kidman, and she is from, I believe, still in Walla Walla, Washington, and I want to welcome Nicole. Shalom.
Shalom, Nitsa. How are you?
Hey. Good. I'm so excited to have you here today. So Nicole, gosh, I'm just amazed really about how we met originally, right? And so, anyway, I think it was Sukkot, October 2022. And you showed up to the Sukkot that we were hosting in Idaho. And turns out you were a friend or in fellowship with people that I had known in Oregon and Idaho. And we were talking about Dr. Monzo's class, ATP, that was coming up in December, which was the second class that year. And then I met you again in Ohio, and we had moved to Ohio within those 2 months, and you were there. And so you basically were in the ATP class, and I think you came back a couple of months later for another one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, and since then, for those of you who don't know, Nicole trains horses, and she was a barrel racer. She still is a barrel racer. But the thing through the ATB, Alef Tav body community, is she's amazing with horses and animals, and she's helped some other people. And so we want to talk about her life and her and her husband's business and what they're doing there in Washington, and her dreams and her background with horses, etc. So, and where she's going with that, where she's at today. So Nicole, why don't you share with us who you are, what you do, and just start right there.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I am definitely a horse girl at heart. I think I always have been. And looking at my daughters right now, I think, I was probably similar to them. It's like bred into us, come out loving horses. So that, I would say, is kind of where I do my best to pursue that kind of in the walk of my life, of course, pursuing Yah and the faith and the family and all of those things too. But like, if we're just talking about like a passion, that said, we have a family business, third generation. So my grandpa started it. It's a mainly horse trailer dealership. We also do Polaris and all kinds of trailers, industrial and, livestock and, kind of anything within that realm. And so my husband and I are in the process of taking ownership and leadership of that business. So that's a big project for us right now. And then, of course, being a mom and just wholeheartedly trying to do that the best I can, which is an amazing experience. And I will say over and over again that, our children are calling us to a higher level and a higher standard. And so that's really challenging, but like so beautiful. And so those challenges become beautiful invitations to grow. And
yeah, they're good for our character, aren't they?
Yeah. And I just see that above and above, like, and I could even relate this to horses. I don't know that there's ever really a behavior issue. It's always something deeper. Mm-hmm. And something that we can connect with and be called to like a higher standard in that connection and communion with it. So we can get into that more, but that's a big part of my life. And then that ties right into the horses and my passion there, but also a dream that I've had and that got reignited in me. I think it was maybe the end of 2023 or possibly early 2024. I had Yah just really presented me kind of with a fork in the road. Like, are you going to let go of this dream or?
Well, let's go back a little bit. What did you do growing up? Because, a lot of people don't know your background and what that dream was.
Yeah. So I, again, grew up riding horses. It was a family thing. Mm-hmm. And then I caught a lot of success when I was about 9 or 10. And I was competing at kind of top levels at that point on a homegrown, home-raised horse. So that's fun too. My mom and dad have raised a lot of wonderful horses from the beginning. And my dad wasn't raised in it. He got his first horse, I don't know, as a young adult. And then my horse that I was winning on was one of her daughters that he did instead. So anyway, just kind of a fun lineage. I actually have his first horse. I have two of her granddaughters in my pasture right now.
Oh, wow. But you were a barrel racer and you were a champion.
Yes. So I, from that point, I was really successful. So we started hauling more and doing more. And at the time I was 17, this was on a different horse, but another horse that we kind of didn't race from the beginning, but we got her as a yearling. She broke the world record with me and stuff. And then we rodeoed together in 2013 mainly. And then 2014, she got sidelined. I got sidelined. And so it wasn't a full 10-year break, but it almost was.
Mm-hmm.
I did explore a lot more in dressage and other disciplines and things like that in between that. But I was in between getting married, having babies, just figuring out life. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of was almost like a decade of a break. I always had the horses and was always still involved with them, but it was a very different involvement. So
you were a world champion barrel racer, right?
And yeah, so just to clarify, there's professional that would consider a world champion, and that's actually my goal now. Okay. You have to be 18 and be in the professional circuit and stuff. Okay. So not that, but the Barrel Racers National 4D is a division, and so I was crowned the world champion round of that at least 3 years actually. Mm-hmm.
So you're wanting to go back to the world champion professional category?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I did do the professional rodeo mainly in 2013. I did 2012 and 14 a bit too, but 2013 was my main year and I did fairly well. And then, like I said, everything kind of fell apart. There was a lot of growing in me. That's actually when I came into more of the Torah movement. And shout out to my mentor, Dawn, if she's there, because I met her at the San Antonio Rodeo. And that's, over the years, that's how the transition happened.
Which Dawn is that? Do I know her?
I don't know. Dawn, I think it's okay if I say her name. I don't know.
Well, if you have a ministry and puts out podcasts, is it that Dawn or is it a different one?
She has had a YouTube channel, but I can tell you the name.
Dawn. Does she live in Montana?
No, Texas.
Okay. All right.
She's very Texan.
All right. That's
so yeah, that solves it. But anyway, wonderful testimony there. But yeah, so that's kind of the professional circuit. And then, at that point I wanted to, make it to the NFR National Finals Rodeo, of course, win the world, all of the things, but then horses got sidelined, life happened, I met my wonderful husband,
which, if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, he had been to Israel with Hayuvel, mm-hmm. and or made a friend with somebody else that we know. And that is how you guys got connected in the movement. Yeah.
Yeah, which was pretty amazing because he was only a couple hours from me, but
Oh, wow.
But it took a friend in Texas that they both met in Israel and then it moved around. And anyway, y'all connected us and it was perfect. So
that's awesome. That's very awesome. So if last time I was really paying attention before I updated myself, is that you were in 2025, you were working back on the goal to go towards this dream. Mm-hmm. And you were training and doing clinics, et cetera, for barrel racing and for horses, et cetera. And then we had another baby, right?
Yeah. So how it kind of happened was, like I said, into 2023, early 2024, I can't quite remember exactly, but I was driving home from visiting friends with my family, and all of a sudden, like I said, it kind of just seemed like Yah just gave me this fork in the road, and I was just telling my husband, I think I need to pursue this. I don't want to be on my deathbed and not have tried, and this feels like I need to make a decision if I'm going to let that dream go or not. And so that was kind of an interesting thing. So we sort of went all in. I had no idea what that would look like, but shortly I realized, very shortly after I said yes to the dream, I realized oh my gosh, I'm going to have to heal a lot of stuff in order to pursue this. And then it kind of made sense why Yah was calling me back to it, right?
Back to the dream.
And so that's a really beautiful thing is, is, I think there's so much restoration that's happening. Well, I know, I mean, oh my gosh, it's crazy, the restoration that's happened from me saying yes to this stream. But then it's also cool that that restoration is leading me to something that's so special to me, right? Like, yeah, it's using that desire that he's placed in my heart, not only to give me the desire, but to bring all this healing as I am going towards what I want to go to, right?
Yeah.
It just seems like such a beautiful, gracious thing to do. And, it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too.
Right. So you have a website called Honor in Horses. It's HorseNIN horses.com. And you have a story there. And we know that you need to update a little bit because you now have 2 little girls. And you want to share with me what you shared earlier about putting the date out there.
Yeah. So sorry, I kind of got off track there, but so when I was originally looking, I had 1 daughter, and I kind of didn't probably have a very good, I was maybe a little naive on what it was going to take to actually get back out there after 10 years. And so I thought maybe into 2025 would be, sufficient. And also at that point, I kind of was confronted with, we did want more children, and yet I still wanted this dream, and how are we going to do this? And I was like, you know what, I would regret if I said no to either one.
Right.
So we're just going to say yes to both. Right. and let it fall. So that was kind of the first delay, but not delay at all, right? But that was the first. Yeah,
oftentimes Father gives you visions and purpose, but our timing, his timing, right?
Yes. Yeah. So it's been a good lesson to just kind of let go of the timing. I mean, we still kind of have goals and things to, kind of go, but it's constantly adjusting and being willing to adjust. So yeah, and now that I've had our second daughter, now, the aim is to hopefully rodeo this year a little bit, to earn some money, because I don't want to go to like 100 rodeos in a year, right, or even 60. It's all based on money won. So you can go, I think you have to go to at least like 30 rodeos is the minimum, which is fine. It's pretty hard to qualify off 30 rodeos because, again, it's off money won. But if you can go to the really big rodeos and win, then you can.
And what time frame do you have for that?
Well, yeah, so the season is October to October, basically, September 30th to October 1st. So it's a full year. But the main competition times is January through October. And then you have the finals in December from that previous year.
Oh, okay.
So, but all that to be said is there's a lot of winter rodeos that you have to have money won from the season prior to qualify for.
Okay.
And those are like the big paying ones. So, again, because my goal is to go to the fewest amount of rodeos possible, I want to get into those big ones. Yeah. So this year, I'm hoping by the summer, when all of the rodeos are kind of in our backyard, that we're going to be competitive. We can win some money to then be able to do a full season in 2027, go to the big rodeos, and end up at the finals. So that's the current.
So do you want to, is this a good time to, how did this documentary thing come into all of it?
Yeah, it's a great time. It kind of was revolved around, it came after this dream went. I think it's been spoken into my life a lot that I'd have a documentary at some point. I remember even when I was in middle school and high school, friends would say that, and people I know and things. So it's kind of funny, but I felt like the lessons that I was learning from Yah about his creation and working with it and not against it, and working with our bodies, and really being able to honor our bodies and honor his creation and fully embrace that was such a unique and rare message, at least from the realms that I've been in, that it was really put on my heart that I need to share this. And the avenue, I do have a blog, but I haven't unfortunately updated it in a while. And so the way that felt most congruent to me is a documentary. So I had reached out to the only person I knew that did it, who was actually in the Torah walk, and he gave me great advice and great help, but he personally wasn't feeling called to it. And then Yah opened up the door to somebody who was exactly called to it. His name's Will Bowman out of 262 Creative. And Yah was really pulling him the direction to a full-length documentary. And he is very aligned with like creation and, just the idea of that. So we quickly decided that was going to be a good partnership. And now we are been rolling for a year and a half, I think. And we're just about ready to go to investors now. And
and this is the purpose of this, to go through back to the dream of the national rodeos.
Yeah, so it's around basically these core values that like our body's for us and against us, creation is for us, not against us. And that we can compete or do amazing things or high level things without like compromising our body, or without compromising values, or like without having to go the normal way. Like and it's kind of a hard example is that it's really common thought in the barrel racing industry, probably every equestrian industry at this point, that we're using our horses to such a high and advanced level that you absolutely have to maintain them pharmaceutically.
Oh, wow.
So whether that's injections, whether that's drugs, whether that's, like whatever, it's almost it kind of is to the point that if you're not maintaining your horse and you're competing at a high level, that it's kind of cruel.
Wow. So it's almost like the steroids and the weightlifting.
Yeah. Like if you're going to lift that weight, you've got to have steroids, right? Yeah. Like, and obviously I don't believe that, but that's the thought that is kind of out there. And that's really what we're coming against and saying,
which is focusing on the physical, really. And I know that with you integrating the Alef Tav body system into what you're doing and with the horses and everything, is that, and you address this a little bit on the dressage, is it's about the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of bringing everything together. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about the difference between just barrel racing per se versus how dressage works and how they integrate?
Yeah. So, I did modern dressage training for a while. That was my first introduction to dressage. It helped me in some areas and it hindered us in others.
Okay.
I finally got kind of to the point where I was like, this really isn't what I'm looking for. I was starting to get less and less confident in my own writing. And that was really when it occurred to me that I needed to do something else. Right at that time, I heard about Pippa Callanan, who teaches French classical dressage. I didn't even know there was such a thing. I really knew nothing. I just knew I needed to go to that clinic. And I went there, and Yah just reignited this flame in me that I had for really going back to how the horse was created. Job 39, 19 through 25, is my core verse about what the horse is for and what I want to bring it out. And French classical dressage and Pippa herself aligns with that entirely. And in that verse, it's the horse mocks at fear, is not frightened, covers the ground with distance, or covers the distance with fierceness and rage. You're talking about this war horse. And French classical dressage is actually originally originated from training horses for war. So we are calling them to this bravery, and this, just even with the positions that we ask them to hold their body in, and then to release tension, our war structures.
And so that's astrologically, we're talking the future war houses, white horses returning with Yeshua. That's really
yeah. I mean, if you can imagine what that horse would be, that's what we're trying to pull out. That's our whole goal. That's our whole passion. It's the whole reason for doing what we're doing. So I think that you can pull that out in lots of ways, but between that history of French classical dressage and the way that the masters, is what they call them, the ones that 1700s and stuff that have taught that, their philosophy is to really work with the horse, honor the horse, work with their natures. And then you have Pippa, who's an amazing person and human, and is so passionate about that. And it's it's absolutely wonderful.
So what is the major difference between, say, classical dressage versus the French method?
I would say the core belief that you honor the horse.
Okay.
And you honor their nature.
But and not in the way that a lot of people look at things, but you're honoring the creation and the purpose, the form and the function that Yahweh created that horse for, to work together.
That's what I would say. You're not maybe going to get that answer directly from everybody because there's a lot of technicalities, right?
Right.
The core is what creates the technicalities. So let's just go there.
Right. But I mean, I can hear some people going, that when you say honor, there's all these trigger words for things, especially when you're a believer and you're working with things, and energy. Which brings me to, if I could interject it right here, the video that was shared this morning. Do you want to talk a little bit about that with the child brushing the horse?
Yeah, if we can circle back to that in just a moment. Okay, I'd like to put something in the middle really quick.
Okay, cool.
Just kind of teaching that technicality, honor, and then also biblically kind of tying all these things together of French classical dressage. So one of the technicalities is that the way that we use a bit, and it's always a smooth snaffle bit. And that's a very light, gentle bit. Okay. And I actually had one made. I think it's the only one that I know of with tensor rings and pure copper. But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah.
So in utilizing the bit, so there's a scripture, and I think it's in James, but it's essentially saying that we put bits in horses' mouth so that you can control their whole body. You can turn their whole body. Okay, that used to bother me because I used hackamores, halters, things without anything in their mouth, and I could turn their whole body. So I'm like, what is he talking about? Okay, well, then I learned French classical dressage, and finally it came together because the tongue is actually connected to the horse's whole body. And if the tongue is locked and the jaw is locked, you cannot, they can't unlock the rest of their body. They can't have full relaxation if the tongue and jaw are not also relaxed. Okay, how we typically use the bit and how we're trained is straight down, low hands. Low hands are kind of the target beauty. Well, that's the end, but it shouldn't be the means, because what happens is that if you're always low hands, but your horse is above it or your horse is fighting it, now that's putting all of the tongue, the pressure of the bit directly on the tongue. That's not how the bit's to be used. The bit is to be on the corner of the horse's mouth. But in order to do that, your hands and the reins always need to be above the horse's mouth. And then you create trust and relaxation in the mouth and the jaw. And then you can lower with your horse.
Oh, okay.
So it's that, and that's one of the biggest things. So why I'm bringing this up is because I can get in a high anxiety situation with my horse, and I can either step off or do it in the saddle, depending on the situation. And I can lift that bit gently into the corners of their mouth, and it kind of massages the tongue and goes up. And they will completely relax. They will deactivate the parts in their neck that are like, this is an ATB point. I think this is cool. This is Lamed, and it's considered the stiff neck. Well, they have that same point in their neck, and it's a triangle. And I wish I knew the official name in case anybody wanted to look it up. But if you study like balance through movement method or the French classical dressage, this is actually what's activated when their head is up and they're carrying it high because there's a threat. This is the muscle that's holding everything.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it's activated. So if they are nervous or scared of something, that muscle is activated. It's hard for them to come down out of that into relaxation. Like when they're resting and their head is low, that muscle is no longer activated. And so by relaxing the tongue and the jaw, lowering their head through that, I can deactivate that muscle, which then helps their nervous system go straight to relaxation. So I can run my horse. She can say, I'm all hot and tight because we were just going to war. And then I can say, and we're coming down through her tongue and the bit, and a very soft, gentle touch and inviting her down. It deactivates and she goes, and she's calm. And so it's like that connection and that mentality and being able to work with their bodies to help them the way that they're designed to come up. And I can also call her up, right? I can call her up very gently and say, it's time for war. And we activate that. There's a good place for it, right?
Right.
But then we also need to come back down, because otherwise then it can be really dangerous. So
I'm just thinking that point, one of the emotions or characteristics is associated with the stiff neck and the stubbornness.
Yes.
So basically you're connecting that to maybe sometimes we're stubborn because we see a threat.
I guess like the way I'm thinking is of it being immobile, like stiff, right? And yes, there's like stubborn and all of that, but usually there's kind of reasons for that. But what I'm saying is like, this is locked. And what will happen is that because we are not trained properly on using the corners of the mouth and teaching trust from our hands to the mouth, instead we use it as a discipline. You turned your head that way, come on over this way, and we rip it. Right. And they start guarding that. And then when they're nervous, right, they don't have trust. This is locked. Now this is locked. Now they're immobile. And so they're in this high anxiety, high stress, high threat all the time.
Wow. I can really see that applied to our relationship with the Lord, to be allowed to make
and even how we carry our bodies.
Yeah. And how we respond to him.
These muscles to carry us all the time.
Wow.
They're there for when we are in that high stress, right? We need to lift a car off somebody or, something like those muscles should be activated in those moments. But like, even for me, I know that I'm working on it now, but I know that these muscles here, which is also the gimel, by the way, another point, and then here the lamed, these carry me most of the time. And it's because I have been in a high alert state.
Right.
For most of my life. Nobody's taught me, not that anybody's responsible for that, but nobody's taught me to be able to let go of that and carry the body through my core and through that openness and through this release of tension. So I'm learning that myself right alongside my horse.
Right. And then that affects your physical, emotional, and spiritual all the way through. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's hard to override the nervous system. I mean, now our thoughts can, and our thoughts do, and there's so much about that in the Bible, so much that I wish we paid more attention to and took more seriously. It's been amazing since I have, but our thoughts really do create and make the change. Even physically, we can take those thoughts and beliefs and patterns, and our body can actually change almost instantaneously because energy.
Right. Which is power, which is how everything was created.
It's everything. Exactly.
So, so back to that video, which I posted it on Facebook and some other places, but I'll try to get a link. But it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, in that video, the little boy's laying on his horse and just kind of releasing. And then you see the horse give the release like right after, and it was very obvious. And this is fun because, like I said, I'm learning to release things alongside my horse. It's the exact same thing. I do that. What was in the video, I do it intentionally pretty much every single time I'm with my horse, because I'm noticing now so when they respond with aggravation, there's certain trigger points, and it'll change for different horses. I think what resonates with them and me, and kind of our connection, but like the sternum and that area is really sensitive for two of my horses. And like they don't want to be cinched. They don't want to be touched there. They don't want to be brushed there. And if they do, they're like biting, like, and so, before I kind of just wanted to hide from it. Like kind of like, oh, I'll just cinch you off really loose and and like, I know, and I'll do it really fast and step away. And, like I just kind of like work around it and try not to upset the lion, And then one day was like, maybe I just need to settle. Why am I working so fast and trying to like avoid this, And it was kind of like a high anxiety avoidance. That's probably like a, what do they call it? The attachment style. It's like avoid. It's like a strong one for me. Right. And so I just kind of started saying to myself, right, I have the time and I have the capacity to handle their needs. And I started repeating that. And that was a mind change, right? That's
right. Yeah.
And doing, because what I was believing, not consciously, but what I figured out, what I was believing is I don't have the time or capacity to deal with this. So I'm just going to like, hop around it as best as I can and then like get on and ride. Because
and we do the same thing with people we work with, our children, our spouses, whoever. So it's a great application to learn.
100%. So what I did was I touched them in their spots and I did the mem, because that was something that Pippa will do. She'll touch them in an area and the mem. Now, she didn't know it was the mem or anything.
Right.
But that's what she intuitively went to. Now, the mem, for people who are listening, is it's kind of the emotional one, if you just were to name
emotional, but for us, it's kind of above the mammary glands, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I always remember it because mammary flowing fluid nursing, right?
Yeah. So it's a great one. So we'll kind of touch like the sternum and then the mem, but they're also just, that whole area is what's sensitive. And so I lightly touched it, and then I just started releasing it in me. Just by my mind, releasing the tension. Taking deep breaths, releasing. And I was holding so much here, right? We start protecting and guarding. When all of this collapses, we're guarding our heart. We're guarding so much right here. So I started releasing it and saying, like, I'm safe to not be guarded. And they released immediately. And again, and again. And they yawn, and they lick, and they release. And the more I release, the more they release. And then who would have known I can girth them up and touch everywhere and they don't care. They're not, like, it's not a problem. Now, sometimes I go back out and I don't need to re-release, if you will. And sometimes I do. And usually it's always because I'm holding it. They are literally mirroring me. So all they need from me is to release myself, to be aware of where I'm holding tension, where I'm closed down. And if I can let that go and be safe to let it go, they're safe to let it go. And it's amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah, I think of mirroring a lot like countenance, which, we can get into the energy aspects of it once you understand that. But it is true. You mirror, or you feel and you receive and you put back out. So if someone is in that tension or anxiety, and or if you're in a happy, when somebody walks in and they're in a really great mood, it kind of just lightens everything up, and then people have a tendency to come in ham,
well, and I want to point something out that I've learned recently with that, and the word is congruency.
Okay.
So I read in a book by a woman who I think it was the Tale of Equus, and I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right, but she had experience with psychiatric patients as well as horses.
Okay.
And she tells a story of a psychiatric patient that had basically randomly kind of like punched people, broken noses and things. And he was nonverbal. And so she was basically warned about this patient. Well, she actually kind of connected with him. And she started to realize basically her congruency mattered about his irritation with her. And so, like, if she had had a bad day and she came in and she was like, okay, I'm here, I just need to be happy, but she was still really hurt or struggling inside.
Right.
That incongruency triggered him. He could tell.
Gotcha.
And she found out, that was when he always had outbursts. That was when he broke the last nurse's nose, is because she got broken with that day and all this stuff. And she came in, I'm at work, I'm going to be happy and this and that. And he could tell, and it was too much because he was so sensitive to it. Well, I believe that's what children are. I believe that they have that sensitivity. I think, some people have it more than others. It's been trained out of some of us or numbed. And horses have it very strongly. I think we're all created to have it. And I think we do. We just have to tune back into it most of the time. Anyways, so with that being said, Rocky, I've spent a couple years where that's one of my horses, my main one. And she's really intentional about letting me catch her in the pasture. And I mean, she put me through the ringer to figure this out. years. But now I know that if I'm congruent when I step into the pasture, she has no problem letting me catch her right away. If I am not, she will run from me and run by me and run around me and buck with me until I find congruency. And then she stops and lets me catch her. So it could be 30 seconds. It could be 3 hours. Like, it doesn't matter. It just is when I get to that place of congruency. So sometimes I'll go out and I'm like, oh, finally, I had this big pressure, work day, stressful, this or that, but I'm out in the sunshine and it's time to ride and I'm so happy and I just want to get on my horse and ride.
Wow.
Not good enough. Like, you're not actually really happy because you're still carrying a lot of that stress and weight and things and grief sometimes. We had our dog die recently and it was just absolutely, we're still grieving. And so I have to search and stop and say, okay, what am I really holding? Like, I feel happy about being out in the sunshine and being able to ride, but how am I really doing?
Gotcha.
And then I just tell her, like, yeah, actually, I'm feeling pretty heavy with grief. And actually, I'm feeling a little bit of pressure with this and da-da-da-da-da. And then she's like, cool, here we go. Let's go ride.
I wish I'd known that.
Like, okay.
I had a horse. She never wanted to be caught. Yeah.
Well, and so how the author in this book explained this was that, if they're in the wilderness and there's a mountain lion that has just eaten a full meal, they really don't care if the mountain lion is close to them. The mountain lion's not hungry. Now, if the mountain lion is hungry, they can sense that from like a mile away and they're on the move.
Okay.
And so they can sense that, and that is what keeps them safe. So if I come in and on the outside, I'm saying, I'm so happy, everything's wonderful in the world, but on the inside, I'm not. Now, all of a sudden, are you hungry or are you not? Okay. What's going on? This isn't safe.
Okay.
Right? They just need to know which is it. And I think we are the same too. If you think about, I'm sure anybody's like a spouse or a child. Well, children are pretty congruent usually. But until we, again, train it out of them. But like with a spouse, like if they've had a bad day at work and they come home and they're trying to be a good spouse, that can feel really concerning. Like something's not right here and I can't put my finger on it. Like, did I do something wrong? Are you upset with me? You seem really down, right? And so we can sense that. It's present in our lives. It's just, I think becoming more and more aware of it is what's important.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. That's really interesting. Lots to learn from that, from a biblical perspective and emotional, spiritual, and how you would apply that to your life.
Yeah. I think it's been freeing for me because it's not asking for perfection. Rocky doesn't need me to always be happy or great. She 100% doesn't need that. She needs me to be congruent. And I think that's what most people need to. Now, it also means like not being a victim, not dwelling, not this or that, but just recognizing, hey, I am working through grief right now. And I can still walk and I can do this, but I see this and I feel this. And then being able to move forward kind of with that knowledge. But it's that avoidance that I think gets us in trouble. So it's really beautiful. It's really freeing. Again, it's not an excuse to stay in it. It's not an excuse to be a victim, nothing like that.
Right.
It's just to identify how you're really feeling. So that way you can be a little bit more sensitive with yourself. You can, maybe be a little more gentle with your child. I know that when I come out of congruence with my daughter, that's when behavior starts turning bad.
Yeah.
But she has this insecurity because mom's not congruent. And is it because of me? Right.
Right.
So now that I recognize that, I can tell her, hey, mom's feeling this way because of this.
Right.
It's not you. I see that you want connection. Let's sit down and read a book together. And then, she's like giving me a hug. I'm so sorry, Ima, that you're feeling that way. I'm so sorry that this happened, and then she's secure and safe and back to like her sweet, caring, normal self. So behavior is when we just try and address it at that level without going deeper, it's so superficial, and it actually kind of starts to create more incoherency. because they're expected to be happy when they're not, or they're expected to behave when they're feeling insecure.
Yeah. And then just not reacting. Like I know a lot of times, well, not a lot, but sometimes my husband walks in and I respond a certain way, it's like I have to turn around and go, because he just wants to make everything right. Right. I'm in a lot of pain or something has happened, and so it's not you. And the good thing is he's great with that. He knows, but that's what people do. They go like, are they mad at me? Are they upset with me?
Yeah.
Or, well, if you're that way with me, I'm going to be that way with you. And then you just have, relationship issues, right?
Yeah. And really it's like, my dog died or, this happened. Like, but we have to be willing to go there to face those hurts and those things too. And we've got to have the capacity to do it. And that also is really hard for a lot of people today. So there's a lot that's wrapped up in that, but the more we grow, the more that we learn about that.
Well, I find, my struggle has been more, I didn't even know I had a problem, but no, is that people don't, like you said, it's been kind of groomed out of us that we don't even know what's bothering us. Like we don't even know. Yeah. Because we've just learned to, get up and go on. Right. So,
yeah. And, I think that's a good point. And this is something from my mentor, Dawn, I mentioned. She used to tell me, do you want the want? You might not want the thing, but do you want to want the thing?
Right. Right.
And that's enough, right? That mustard seed of faith is enough. And so I think it's the same, like, if we don't even know what's going on inside, but we know something's going on inside, can we at least address the fact that something's going on inside of me and I don't know what it is? Yeah. But I do that all the time because I'm still learning, right? I'm like having to go through 30 years of unlearning. And so oftentimes I'm sitting here going, I don't know what's wrong with me right now. Nothing's wrong with me. That's a belief I've got to work on. But it's like, I can't identify the situation. Actually, just a couple weeks ago. So I mentioned our dog got hit and it just hurts us so much. And I was going through grief and I reached out to my counselor and was saying like, I actually don't even know what's going on inside of me right now.
Yeah.
I can't even identify it with what I'm feeling. I just know that something's going on, right?
Well, and that's a step for a lot of us, right?
That's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's enough. That's the first little mustard seed that he'll take you beyond that. So if you can at least just get there, that's enough for my horse and stuff too, right? It's enough for my daughter.
Right.
They don't need that perfection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just in shock, having worked with ATV and Dr. Monzo and Kim and they're all into the emotions part of everything, like what emotions behind that? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I was trained to pull up your boots and march on, but now I'm like, okay, maybe there is something. What is it? And
yes.
Recognizing that in others, and sometimes just recognizing that I have an issue. I got to figure out what it is, and it doesn't. It shocks me and embarrasses me as far as my pride goes. I'm pushing 68 years old, and I'm just now getting in touch with these emotions. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But better now than 3 years down the road, and I think that pulling your bootstraps up is still valuable. I also want to say that because I feel like in the beginning, I kind of have swerved, on the emotional side heavy, which isn't a bad thing, right? I'm learning, like finding the balance and the truth, right? But I will say there's a place for that as well, but not in spite of the emotion. I think that's like the ticket, right? So because if I'm just a blob on a couch because I'm feeling grief, like that, then I'm not really able to be, and not to say that there's not a place for that in certain times. It's usually a pretty short period of time that it's relevant. I can't really walk out what I'm supposed to be as a mom and things like that. So there is the point of like, okay, I am in a lot of grief. I've cried it out. Now I've got to go feed my children and this and that. So kind of that pull up the bootstraps. That said, I'm also going to be gracious with myself as I feed the children because I'm still feeling heavy. Right. And I'm going to let them know. And we're going to work through this together. And I'm going to be okay with my child still feeling grief about our dog as we're still moving on through life. So we address it as it comes, and it layers. You just delayer one layer at a time as it decides to come up. So there's good to knowing how to pull up your bootstraps.
Right.
And move on. Otherwise, we wouldn't get anywhere.
I'm working my way backwards to, oh, maybe I'm feeling something and I do feel it, but I don't know how to release it because it's just not coming naturally.
Yeah. And, and this is the other thing about, and then I'd bring up ATB in this. Obviously there's people we can go to as well.
Right.
I think there's also a belief that I'm increasingly kind of coming to of that I do have what I need to release it and that, but trusting the time and the process and the journey. Letting the Father guide us who we need to talk to, what we need to do, if we don't. But I also think that's where ATB can really be utilized, is like sometimes we don't know, but we do know that emotions can get stuck in parts of our body and can cause the incoherency and cause, congestion of energy. And so that's how I understand ATB applications and things coming into that emotionally, is like, okay, maybe it's stuck and I just don't really know what to do, but I can do an application that's going to work those kind of emotions and start releasing them. And maybe that is the thing that gets the ball rolling to bring them to the next stage of whether it's my consciousness or maybe it's not. Maybe it just releases it. It's just not really bothering us so much anymore. Sometimes we need to work through things consciously and sometimes we don't.
Right. Yeah. You just gave me another angle, because I'm always working with the ATB cycle chart and showing people how to, hey, you got a kidney problem, then let's look at that. Let's look at the emotions, look at all this. But the reverse of, okay, I know that I'm dealing with grief, but I don't feel the grief. How do I make myself process that? So then I'm like, okay, grief is what, cycle 2. So what can I do to release that with, yes, we have counselors and ATV people that are awesome with that, but maybe that's a place to go to start moving those emotions of whatever that is, anger, frustration, whichever cycle. So that would be interesting. I do, we've got about 7-8 minutes, and I really would like for you to share anything else that you want to wrap up on that. And then you had shared some things about birth. Into the frequency and enter singing. And I thought that was quite fascinating.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I had a home birth with my first daughter, and we had a midwife. I really wanted to do it on my own. Our midwife wasn't comfortable with that. And so we kind of tried to do it as much as we could on our own with balancing the comfort levels. And everything was going well. And then we felt like I kind of hit a wall in the birth, and then the midwife stepped in, and then everything went from me and my husband kind of rolling along to following instructions and this and that. And it was just kind of this really long labor after that, really painful. I was so exhausted by the end of it. I could not stand, couldn't it was just couldn't walk. For a while, it was just so depleted. So this time, I had done a lot of emotional work and ATB work and mind change, understanding, and just, growing so much under what Yah has really created us to be. And I read a book, not all of it, just little pieces of it, but called Portal. And I also had an amazing midwife who fully supported us and doing it on our own, training it, whatever we wanted. But I wanted her there just as basically a friend at that point. I was like, I actually can do this by myself. I don't really need you here as my midwife. I just want you here as our support person. And she's like, great. So anyway, all this to be said is I really wanted to envision I wanted the birth that I desired to have. And what I realized is I didn't want to be indoors because it felt kind of I don't know, squishy. We're in a really small, little apartment. So I wanted it to be outside, and I wanted to have enough privacy, but I also still wanted it to be open air, and I wanted to be close to my horses. And so we moved our sukkah. We have a wood sukkah frame, and we had like 3 walls for it and stuff. So we moved that forward to the horse's pasture and put it all up, and we made a birthing sukkah. And I decorated it with stuff from the thrift store and just made it beautiful and bright. And we had a big bathtub we put out there, so if I wanted to do water birth. And it was just, again, facing my horses in the pasture, and so beautiful. And I just really solidified in trusting my body. My midwife really encouraged that. Everything we were reading really encouraged that. And so we did. There are ATB points and things that you can use, but this birth kind of went pretty quick. My water broke at midnight, and then that was when kind of labor started for me. And my daughter was born at 3:30 in the morning. So it was 3 hours start to finish. And as the contractions started to ramp up, which was probably an hour and a half into it or something, I found myself making tones with my voice.
Okay.
And they would change as the contractions increased. And it was almost like I was an opera singer, and I'm not a singer, and I'm not comfortable with singing. Okay. This isn't like I'm just like that kind of a person. It's not.
Right.
But I found it, and it just would, I almost wonder, like, is it destructive interference in the way of like, maybe my frequency of my voice was the opposite of the kind of like frequency of the contraction, and was
right.
Gotcha. I don't know. But when I could just stay focused and comfortable and safe to find the voice that I needed to find, everything was fine. And my husband was getting the sukkah ready and this and that. So he wasn't even really present during that labor. So he was just walking into me, like making these musical tones going like, what are you doing? I was like, shh, just leave me alone. It's working. So anyway, it was a beautiful birth. She was born outside. My husband caught her. We were able to do it on ourselves. Our midwife was just in our guest room. And so when she was born, Uriah, my husband, ran and said, baby's here. And she came out and celebrated with us and, made us breakfast. And we got to watch the sunrise over our horses. And yeah, it was just.
That's all, you don't even have to imagine that scene through the births because you actually have it. So that was awesome that you manifested and used that. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah. And I think, the voice is just kind of that frequency. Like we really have frequency healing and things within us. And I thought I would remember the tones and kind of the song forever.
Right.
I can't remember it at all. I mean, I know my body does, but
it's what you needed at the moment it was released. And it's interesting to think about the Song of Moses and this greater second Exodus, thinking about how much of that will be in tone and harmony with what is needed and what's going on with that situation.
I think I was able to get there because I felt so safe in our situation. And it was exactly what made me feel most safe was me and my husband, no pressure of anybody else being there outside in the sukkah that I had designed and put so much thought into, with my horses. Like I was in the place where I could be whatever I needed to be. And I did not have to worry about the neighbors hearing us or something, which I thought I wanted to have a birth a few hours later in the morning. And if I had done that, my neighbor, I fired up the tractor after she was born. And in that moment, I was like, praise Yah that I had her at 3:30 in the morning and not 5:30, because I would have never been able to make the noises I made at 5:30 with, knowing that somebody was on a tractor listening to me. So that feeling again of like safety, being able to release and just be fully present with where Yah takes you was, I think, what enabled that whole experience. So
that's amazing. So we got a few minutes. We need to wrap up. So let's go back to you and your husband have a trailer business.
Yes.
With some 4-wheelers too, right?
Yeah, ATVs, ORVs. Yeah, 4-wheelers. Yeah.
And so you tell people how they can reach that and how they can reach you and, connect with you. Yeah, I know it's not going to be easy because you're very, very busy with the farm. Because you guys have a farm too, right? I mean, you got
we have a little homestead, and we've got a lot going. But so Don Johnson Sales is our trailer business. TheTrailerPlace.com and ThePolarisPlace.com is our website.
And that's in Walla Walla?
It's in Walla Walla, yes.
Washington, okay.
So, yep, we deliver. So if you're not in Walla Walla, you can still look us up. And then honorandhorses.com is my website, and my documentary is called Our Truest Natures. And we have a Facebook page right now, and I think a YouTube. The Will's 262 Creative, they're kind of taking care of all that stuff. So I don't have to, but I do know there's for sure a Facebook page and Instagram, I think. So if you look up Our Truest Natures, that's honestly the place where I'd say follow more than anything, because there's exciting videos and ideas around everything that I've shared today. We're really sharing through there. So not just the full-length documentary that'll come out in a couple years, but also there's reels and videos that are sharing little core thoughts and concepts as we go along. So it's a great place to dive into that.
And I will share those on the Rumble channel. I don't think I have that ability on Messianic Lamb. Maybe they do on the YouTube. I have to check with Mark on that. But well, anyway, thank you for coming. And I know there's so much that you have to offer and learn. And I'm just, blessings to you as you go through this time. And like I had said earlier, everything you're going through with raising the children and the business and the homeschooling, right? And the horses and the farm, it's building you, it's building your character and giving you and feeding into the anointing of where you're at. Sorry, I get emotional. I've just been there, seen it so many times. And a lot of young women just need to recognize and realize what, is Father's timing, right? And we don't know what we don't know that we need, that will make us so much more powerful and effective when he releases us outside of our sphere and the sphere, as of the home and being a mother and a wife. It's really the most powerful thing we can do. Anyway, sorry about that.
No, please, Sophie. Thank you, Nita. I really appreciate you inviting me on and talking and sharing things that I'm passionate about that are on my heart. So,
all right. Well, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you back soon later when you've got more going on, right? To share. Right now, it's not that you don't have more, but all right. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you being here. All right. Thank you.
Shalom, shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lambnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all other live Lamb Show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell somebody about the Messianic Lamb Network.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.